Today's program is brought to you by PennyStockProfessor.com. For all the best OTCBB stock picks, sign up at PennyStockProfessor.com. I'm Brandon Vincent, and I want to thank you for joining us for another TBC Daily News Update.
Medtronic Incorporated said on Wednesday it named Michael Coyle as Executive Vice President and Group President of its cardiology business. Coyle, who most recently served as a consultant to private equity, venture capital and medical device businesses after serving as president of St. Jude Medical's cardiac rhythm management business from 2001 to 2007, will be a member directly to Medtronic. Reporting to Coyle will be Pat Mackin, president of cardiac rhythm disease management, Scott Ward, president of cardiovascular, and Brian Webster, president of physio-control. In August, Medtronic, the world's largest standalone maker of medical devices, said it would consolidate its businesses into 2 operating units, combining its heart-related businesses into 1 unit, and the remaining businesses, neuromodulation, diabetes, biologics, spinal and surgical technologies, into the other.
Iran released 5 British sailors on Wednesday, ending a week of detention after their yacht accidentally entered Iranian waters. The release eased concern over a fresh diplomatic incident between Tehran and Britain. Amid increasingly difficult negotiations between Iran and Western powers over its nuclear ambitions. Early on Wednesday, the sailors were handed over to British representatives in Tehran. A spokeswoman for Britain's Foreign and Commonwealth Office said that they understand that the yacht, the Kingdom of the Bahrain, will be towed back to international waters and met by its sailing club. The issue was never one of politics and showed that diplomacy can work. Mr. Miliband had discussed the matter with Iranian Foreign Minister late Tuesday. Naval units of the elite Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps stopped the vessel and interrogated the yachtsmen. Officials found that their entry into Iranian waters had been a mistake. IRNA said the sailors were en route to Dubai to take part in an offshore sailing race when their propeller broke and the vessel drifted into Iranian waters. There have been worries in the UK that 5 British nationals would be used to exert political pressure by Iran as tensions over its nuclear ambitions ratcheted up. In March of 2007, 15 British naval personnel were detained by the Persian Gulf of Iran, who claimed that they were trespassing in its waters, and were only released after 2 weeks.
The U.S. labor market improved in November, with the number of jobs lost in the private sector falling again and the number of planned layoffs also easing. The U.S. government is set to report on Friday data for both private and public employment, which is also expected to show the number of job losses falling, though unemployment is still seen above 10%. U.S. private employers shed 169,000 jobs in November, fewer than the 195,000 jobs lost in October, according to a report on Wednesday by ADP.
You may want to think twice if you hit a site with a .cm extension. That belongs to Cameroon, pegged by McAfee as the world's riskiest domain. McAfee's 3rd annual Mapping the Mal Web report, released Wednesday, looks at the riskiest and safest domains across the globe. The small nation on the west coast of Africa reached the top spot this year with 36.7% of its sites posing as a security risk. Because .cm is often a typo for .com, McAfee said cyber crooks like to use that domain to set up typo-squatted sites to hit you with malware. The generic and widely used .com domain itself isn't much safer, according to McAfee, jumping from 9th last year to 2nd this year in riskiness, with 32.2% of its sites potentially hazardous to your PC's health. Romania is tagged as the riskiest domain for malicious downloads, with 21% of its sites delivering payloads of viruses, spyware, and adware. The information domain is seen by McAfee as the most spammy, with 17.2% of its sites generating junk mail. On the positive side, the government is the safest generic domain with essentially 0% risk, while Japan proves the safest country domain with a rating of 0.1%. Last year's riskiest domain, Hong Kong, dropped to 34th place with a rating of only 1.1%, which McAfee attributed to the country's aggressive steps to stop scam-related domain registrations. This report underscores how quickly cybercriminals change tactics to lure in most victims and avoid being caught. Last year, Hong Kong was the riskiest domain, and this year it's dramatically safer. Cybercriminals target regions where registering sites is cheap and convenient and pose the least risk of being caught. Overall, looking at the 27 million websites and 104 top-level domains, McAfee found that 1.5 million sites, or 5.8%, were risky. That's up from 4.1% from the past 2 years. Although the comparison is not direct since McAfee said it changed its rating methodology since then, McAfee noted that cybercriminals who create domains to scam people prefer registrars with cheap prices, volume discounts, and hefty refund policies. Crooks also like registrars with a no questions asked policy and that act slowly or not at all when informed of malicious domains.
Top 10 trading stocks for December are Market Vectors Gold Miners, GDX, ProShares Ultra Basic Materials, UYM, iShares Comics Gold Trust, IAU, Spider Gold Trust, GLD, PowerShares DB Precious Metals, DBP, iShares Silver Trust, SLV, ETFS Silver Trust, SIVR, PowerShares DB Silver, DBS, Market Vector Steel, SLX, and ProShares Ultra Industrials, UXI.
The Federal Housing Administration, faced with rising losses on home loans that it insures, is set to announce Wednesday a raft of measures it is considering to protect its dwindling reserves. Sean Donovan, Secretary of the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, plans to ask Congress on Wednesday to raise the cap on annual insurance premiums that the FHA can charge borrowers. In a testimony before a congressional panel, he will also outline steps the agency is considering to set minimum credit scores, to require home buyers to put more money down, to make lenders more accountable for loans that agencies insure. These measures are designed to begin rebuilding the agency's depleted capital reserves. An independent audit last month said that the estimated value of those reserves had dropped to $3.6 billion, or about 0.5% of the $685 billion in loans that the FHA has insured. But any sharp crackdown could limit the pool of potential home buyers. Many rely on FHA-backed home loans. We have to replenish reserves, and we have to be prepared for a market outcome that may not be as favorable. The audit estimated that the agency wouldn't need any funds from the U.S. Treasury next year. Raising insurance premiums could help avert the need for a taxpayer bailout of the agency, but the move would raise borrowing costs for home buyers. The FHA charges an upfront insurance premium of 1.75% of the loan amount. Borrowers pay additional annual premiums of either 0.5 or 0.55%. The FHA will also limit the amount of money that sellers can provide for closing costs on home sales to 3% of the home price. The agency is also finalizing plans to set a minimum credit score for borrowers, possibly by requiring those making small down payments to have higher credit scores. And now for today's green news. The beluga whales of the Cook Inlet have dwindled in population from around 1,300 in the early 1980s to around 300 today. They're genetically and behaviorally unique based on where they live, but their people-populated living space is a part of what keeps them in harm's way. And the governor of Alaska, Sean Parnell, is doing nothing to assist them in gaining a proposed 3,000-mile area of protected space. Under a proposal issued on Tuesday by the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, over 3,000 square miles, about one-third of the inlet, would be set aside as protected. However, it's the exact area that Parnell is battling against. Alaska's former governor, Sarah Palin, battled against getting the whales listed as an endangered species in the first place. It seems that the whales have few friends within the government of their state. The space covers summer feeding areas where the whales enjoy salmon and smelt while feeding their newborns. But it also overlays areas used heavily for oil and gas production, shipping, fishing, and municipal wastewater discharge. According to this article, Parnell is arguing that the protected area will only harm commerce while doing nothing to boost beluga numbers. While it would likely impact the commerce, having water cleared or at least limiting of human activity would very likely help to at least stabilize their situation, if not increase their numbers, for the sheer fact that there's less disturbance and pollutants entering the beluga habitat. The initial decline in number is due to the overharvesting by native hunters, but scientists say it is the environmental impact of humans in the inlet that are keeping the numbers from bouncing back. The location of the proposed habitat is based on scientific research as well. So while the proposed protected habitat falls within a range where heavy commerce takes place, it is indeed the best hope for the species. NOAA's Fisheries Service scientists estimate that there is a 26% chance that these whales will become extinct within the next 100 years. So measures like protected habitats are vital. The period for public comments is open today and runs through Thursday, January 31st, 2010. A final decision will be made in this early spring of 2010. I'm Brandon Vincent, and on behalf of all of us at TBC today, I want to thank you once again for tuning in to another TBC Daily News Update.